Hello again. I saw something quite scary in the newspaper the other day. First, though, let me remark that for almost the whole of recorded history, and we're talking here 4,000 years or so, children have mostly been raised and educated by their mothers and fathers, with obviously from time to time some help from other adults, usually relatives. The Bible, of course, refers to this state of affairs. Proverbs 1:18 says, "Listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching." It was natural in biblical times for parents to be assumed to be their child's teacher. In the last century or two, in the Western world particularly, it's become the custom for the job of educating children to be taken over by schools. This doesn't usually start until the age of 5, 6 or 7, but it's very common now. In fact, it's the rule in Western countries rather than the exception. This is still a recent development, though, looked at over the course of human history as a whole. Even when they do start attending school, was taken for granted, I should say, because that's changed. It was taken for granted until a few years ago that even when they went to school, the first 5 years or so would be spent in the company of their mothers, who would teach them to walk and talk and use knives and forks and often to read and acquire all those basic skills. This has worked well enough for thousands of years, and unless the children had learning difficulties, they all managed to learn to speak okay with just their mothers to guide and help them. In the last few years, though, the idea has arisen that children need to be in state-run settings much earlier than the age of 5. Otherwise, something terrible will happen to their development. The idea of toddlers staying at home with their mothers is now seen as a risk factor. In the newspaper, a few days ago, I saw an extraordinary statement from the Children's Commissioner or Commissar or whatever her title is. When did we start having such an official in Britain, by the way? Children are not some resource like the army that needs a commissar or other government apparatchik to direct and control them. Anyway, this woman, whose name is Rachel D'Souza, the Children's Commissioner, is worried because of the pandemic. She's noticed that small children under the age of 5 have been spending a lot of time with their mothers rather than being tended in state-run nurseries. This, she thinks, is sure to lead to problems for them. She's worried about the youngest children, the toddlers and preschoolers. I quote, "I have real concerns about that group at nursery age, where they need to be playing and learning and developing language skills, and instead they've been stuck inside for too long." Have you ever heard the like? By stuck inside for too long, she means that 3 and 4-year-olds have been at home with their mothers. How can they play, learn or develop language skills in the company of unskilled people like that? I dare say that older readers who did not start school until the age of 5 will remember being stuck inside like that for far too long, and I hope that not too many of them have language deficits today as a result. This is part of a general attack on the idea of parents raising or educating their own children. The concept that they're working to is that raising children is a complicated job requiring specialists, and that ordinary mothers and fathers should hand over their children to institutions run by government officials who will ensure that they acquire language and are taught how to play in the officially sanctioned way. Rachel D'Souza actually says that they need to be playing, and presumably play is one of those things which cannot take place in the home. It needs experts to arrange and supervise the process of play. I didn't send my child to school for a single day, and this was one of the reasons. I don't think that the state makes a good parent. I believe that children thrive best at home with their families, and that this is also how they can learn everything necessary. The idea that we should simply hand over our babies to the government and let them undertake the job is anathema to me, and I find something very disturbing about the openly expressed views of the Children's Commissar, who says that children cannot learn to play or speak unless the state takes a hand in the matter.